Don't be a bully, be a star. Unless, of course, you're JBL, in which case do whatever the you want. One of the most grotesque lines repeated by loyal WWE employees in the face of controversy and bad PR is the adage that the company is simply all about putting smiles on faces. Though Vince McMahon may want to portray himself as a purveyor of legitimate family-friendly entertainment, even the most casual of fans knows the company has a seedy underbelly, and that makes itself evident both on and off camera. JBL is just the tip of the iceberg. Other wrestlers have been bullies, and none of this would even be possible if it wasn't for a company culture accepting of bullying with McMahon at the helm. With that in mind, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture. I see you, comment section. And these are 10 WWE stars who were bullied out of the company. Number 10, Mauro Ranallo. Where else to start? Last March, Ranallo, who'd been public about his lifelong battle with bipolar disorder, left his post on SmackDown after suffering symptoms related to the illness. Soon, though, news emerged that repeated harassment from JBL had contributed to Ranallo's relapse. JBL had been vicious to Ranallo, both on-screen and off-camera, but the final straw came when the former WWE champion took Ranallo to task for acknowledging his win for Best TV Announcer, unbelievable, in the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards. Ranallo took a long-term sabbatical, whilst the man with the most punchable face in WWE, and that's saying something, remained in situ. Eventually, the story had a happy ending, though, as Ranallo returned for a lower-key NXT post, and JBL called it quits to focus on charity work. And now, we wait for him to block me on Twitter. Number 9, the British Bulldog and Jim Neidhart. If you haven't heard of the Montreal Screwjob, how are you here? Anyway, as we all know, Bret Hart was leaving the WWF to join WCW, but was still champion. Vince McMahon agreed to let Hart drop the title outside Montreal, but then double-crossed him on the way out at the Survivor Series. Sharpshooter, Screwjob, spit in McMahon's face. That left Owen Hart, the British Bulldog, and Jim Neidhart in limbo. Their family member and friend had been disgraced after a 14-year tenure with the company. What could possibly be a more crushing, mean-spirited display of power? As a result, naturally, they requested their releases. Bulldog and Neidhart were allowed to leave, though not before Neidhart was humiliated on television. Oh, Vince. But McMahon wouldn't let Owen out of his contract. While the members of the Hart Foundation weren't necessarily subjected to bullying throughout their WWE careers, the manner in which their tenures came to an end showed how little they were valued as employees. Number 8, Amy Weber. After finishing the 2004 Diva Search in 4th place, Weber was given a contract and assigned to the SmackDown brand as part of JBL's cabinet, the then WWE Champion's image consultant. The first major incident came when wrestlers, including JBL, I'm shocked, began circulating copies around the locker room of a flyer for a strip club on which Weber had appeared. Lovely. She then suffered an injury in training, which subjected her to criticism from wrestlers who felt she was weak. And then, during a plane ride in which Weber was in so much pain she laid out across a row of empty seats, a pair of unnamed wrestlers, although I can bet I can guess one of them, poured an unidentified liquid on her, prompting her to quit the company forever, citing a frat house-like atmosphere. Number 7, Rene Dupree. While Dupree's own issues with addiction hamstrung his potential in WWE, he was ultimately driven out of the company by bullying. Dupree stated that JBL in particular, well hello again, made his life miserable, constantly berating him with homophobic slurs. Bob Holly, here showing off his friendly face, also victimized Dupree due to confusion over a car rental. Basically, Dupree got a traffic ticket that ended up under Holly's name. The incident was settled when Holly took liberties with Dupree, which included a vicious chair shot to the youngster's head. In 2007, after being miserable for years and, in his own words, having suffered dozens of concussions, Dupree requested and was granted his release. Number 6, Daniel Pewter. The entire Tough Enough competition that ran on SmackDown in late 2004 was an exercise in humiliation for the contestants involved. But things reached a head when Angle challenged Chris Narocki to an amateur-style wrestling match. After that, things got interesting. Angle challenged any other contestant who was interested to a shoot match, and Daniel Pewter, who had legit MMA experience, accepted. Quickly, Pewter caught Angle in a keylock, and had referee Jim Corderas not made a dodgy 3 count, Angle's arm would have definitely been broken. Pewter, standing up for himself, naturally made himself a hated man in the WWE locker room. Derided as disrespectful, his first appearance after winning the competition was the Royal Rumble, during which he was subjected to some very stiff chops and blows from Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, and, yep, you guessed it, Bob Holly, before being eliminated. When his 1-year contract came to an end, he was given a very low-ball offer to move to Deep South Wrestling. He rejected it, ending his WWE career. Number 5. Palmer Cannon. Cannon's tenure as a representative from the network only lasted about 6 months and ended before he ever competed in a televised main roster match. During an Italian stop on a European tour, Cannon abruptly quit the company, packing up all his belongings, save for his wrestling gear which he left out on the bed, and booked his own flight home. He attributed his departure to bullying suffered at the hands of Chris Benoit and JBL. As Mr. Kennedy later recounted it, the men felt no remorse over ending the up-and-comer's career, with Benoit expressing that some people didn't belong in the business and seeming to take Cannon's presence as a personal insult. Still, he'll always have whatever the Paul Burchell's pirate debut was, eh? Number 4. Ivelisse Velez. Ultimate Warrior, ECW, the NWO. WWE love a comeback. And that is exactly what they did in 2011 with the revival of Tough Enough. Velez was one of the contestants on the show, but a leg injury eliminated her from the competition. Nevertheless, she signed a developmental contract and was sent to FCW. After a year, though, she was released, later claiming it was due to the fact that she was one of the first developmental stars to report former trainer Bill DeMott for his bullying tactics. DeMott, who resigned from WWE for good in March 2015, had long been considered an awful presence in the developmental system. He reportedly used racist and homophobic slurs on trainees, promoted a culture of sexual harassment, and was physically abusive. Welcome to the WWE! Velez, now of course a Lucha Underground star, like other trainees, was subjected to this harassment. When she voiced a complaint about it, though, it was only her own career that suffered. Number 3. Vader. Vader was already one of the most respected stars in wrestling before he ever set foot in a WWE ring. And that's precisely why his tenure with the company was so disappointing. His first major feud in WWE was with Shawn Michaels, a program that built to a big match at SummerSlam 96. Reportedly, Michaels was no fan of Vader's, feeling that the big man worked too stiffly. As HBK was a notorious prima donna and bully during the mid-90s, he dressed Vader down backstage, telling him that he could have him fired and ruin his career if he didn't lighten up. Vader was so shaken up at the prospect of losing his job that he was brought to tears. Does this look like a man who cries easily? Still, things didn't get better. As Vader's WWE tenure wore on, it was clear that Vince McMahon had no interest in anything but humiliating him. Vader was forced to refer to himself as a fat piece of shit on TV. Nice. And Vince McMahon even complained about his employees' odor in a live AOL chat. Remember the 90s, guys? Soon afterwards, Vader got his release from the company and returned to Japan, where he once again proved his greatness. Number 2. Sable. One of the top faces of the Attitude Era, the incredibly popular star became the first woman in WWE history to pose for Playboy in 1999, leading to one of the best-selling issues in the magazine's run. In a world where wrestling was truly in demand, Sable was the sports queen. Later that year, though, she abruptly left the company, then filed a lawsuit against WWE for $110 million. In the lawsuit, she alleged that she was subjected to sexual harassment and unsafe working conditions. Among other things, male wrestlers would spy on female wrestlers in the locker room, either by walking in accidentally or, and I'm not making this up, cutting holes in the walls. She also said that she was repeatedly asked to go topless on TV. I wonder who wanted that. And X-Pac also admitted that he once put feces in Sable's bag.
This is great banter. It really is.
Sable's lawsuit was settled for an undisclosed amount, and she would return to the company a few years later. Let's hope her experience was better the second time around. Number 1. Jim Ross. Lots of WWE talent has been bullied over the years, but few stars seem to have been bullied on screen with as much gusto as Jim Ross, and by Vince McMahon himself, no less. The WWE chairman seemed to take an inexplicable joy in hurting the play-by-play man at every opportunity. Then again, this is is a man who finds R-Truth funny. A list of humiliations for Ross could fill an entire video. But, among others, McMahon mocks Ross's Bell's palsy on TV, buried Ross's face in his own bare backside in JR's hometown of Oklahoma City, and, most notably, he embarrassed Ross with the Dr. Heine sketch soon after the announcer underwent surgery for colon cancer. Dick move. Ross's tenure in WWE only came to an official end in 2013. While JR was moderating a panel on the WWE 2K14 video game, things got out of hand and Ross was made the scapegoat. He was fired from the company, though it was spun as a retirement, but returned a couple of years ago. Let's hope, for his sake at least, they don't put him on TV in Oklahoma City anytime soon.
Why would you look at that? You got all the way to the end of the video and your mother said you'd amount to nothing. What are the chances? While you're here, why not watch one of our other many, possibly quite good channels, or watch another video which will be largely in the same vein as the quality content you've just endured. Go on then.